says here that anybody can see the king, and that's the law.
Where do it say that?
Here in me book.
So it do. What? But if you people know what was good for you, you'd get yourselves all thrown back. The king don't like people.
Nonetheless, we must see the king on an urgent personal matter. Please lead the way.
But just don't say I didn't warn you, see? Follow me. You're from some clipper that flies the black ball. To me, I die, blow the man down. I'm a peaceable sailor, and that's your ain't all.
Hi, welcome to Bencha Movie Club. I'm Charlie.
My name's Ben.
And in this podcast, we're going to be talking about the 1971 Disney film Bedknobs and Broomsticks, directed by Robert Stevenson, who he was a British director, but he was known for many American products like Old Yeller, Mary Poppins and Love Bug. Mary Poppins and Love Bug, both of course, which star David Tomlinson as well.
Oh, was he in all three? Because he's in this as well, isn't he?
Yeah. So obviously had a good.
I know he's in Mary Poppins. He's the dad in Mary Poppins.
He was like the bad guy in Love Bug.
I can't remember Love Bug.
I vaguely remember.
Is that,
it.
Oh, I'm thinking Herbie, the car.
It is.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, get the car.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I vaguely remember it.
And this director also directed One of Our Dinosaurs Is Missing. Do you remember that?
I remember that one.
The old women and the big
the one I remember in it was one of the women was at the Carry On films, Joan Sims.
Right.
She was one of the women.
I ain't
heard of that for ages.
No, well, I ain't seen that since I was about 8.
Yeah, that's a really old film. It's 80s as well. But it's never. I think it was maybe just on telly. I've never seen it.
That was earlier than 80s. That was 70s, wasn't it?
Do you think so?
I think so. Yeah, because I remember it feeling.
I do remember it.
That was when we was a bit starved.
It might be a bit dated now. I mean,
probably
because I've never heard of it since you just reminded me, and I've not heard of it for years.
Well, it's one of those sort of groups of old sort of family films. You had that, and you had Water Babies. Do you remember Water Babies?
The name
that was similar to sort of like, I think it was like a British one, and it had little cartoons interacting with them, so anything like that was like good for children. So yeah, directed by Robert Stevenson, who's the only director to be nominated for the best director for a Disney film.
That's good.
Yeah, and I think that was Mary Poppins. It's also directed by Ward Kimball, who does the animated section. He directed like The Island and the Boom Boom.
Was it the same animator from Mary Poppins then? Probably would have been, because they was a couple of years apart, and if he was happy with...
He worked on the Robin Hood cartoon, Lady and the Tramp, Peter Pan, Alice in Wonderland, Cinderella, Pinocchio and Snow White. So he's been there since Snow White.
Oh, that's the first one, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's in the 30s, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
38, 39.
He was known for designing various characters, most famously Jiminy Cricket, as well as he done the Mickey Mouse redesign, because Mickey Mouse looks completely different like about every 30 years.
Yeah.
He was known for one of the redesigns of that. Yeah, he's one of Walt Disney's 9 old men, he called them. So with this, you was only able to watch the original version.
Yeah, I see. You know what? That bugged me when you said to me the other day, because since I've looked into that, because the original version was 139 minutes, and the version that most people have seen is 118 minutes. So that's 21 minutes have been cut from it. And the thing that's when I've heard all the interviews and stuff from the cast and the crew, everyone is really annoyed about that because they all see the original film and loved it. It's these things they've cut out. There's small little bits that has taken away from it feels like in their eyes, it feels like there is something missing from the film. Like you lose a lot of the feeling and the emotion and the pacing, and also. But we love it anyway. Yeah. And the annoying thing is the reason why it was cut out.
Yeah, well, this is it. It weren't cut out because they thought, it's sort of dragging the story there or whatever. It was purely for presentation because we had that. What was it? It was in a theatre and they had like a big stage production on of it.
Yeah, the New York City Hall Christmas show. And because they could only give them 2 hours, they said it had to be cut down. So, okay, well, fair enough. We'll do a copy of the film. Could they copy films back then? Or do they just think, oh, it's right, we'll just cut it? Because I'm not being funny.
Well, it's not lost though, is it?
No, listen, a lot of it is lost because there's certain bits that they've only got the sound to, or they've found certain clips.
Sure.
The reason, for that reason, right, for them people to watch that show for that one night, for generations, years afterwards, we've all missed out on the film that was meant to be seen without realising. But if you love a film, you want to see how it was. It's not like it's a director's cut, it's the original cut.
Yeah.
So it ain't like one of these that we talked about before with deleted scenes and stuff like this. These weren't deleted scenes, these was from the film. And that's the annoying thing about it. For that one night, for them to sort of fit it into that show, we generations from decades and decades to come have missed out because there's certain bits in that they've found the audio for, but they've not found the visual, or they've not been able to clean up as much. Because I'll go into it later because I've got it all listed down, all the bits that's missing from it.
Those are these you can find on like YouTube. Did you find any?
Yeah, I found bits, but the thing is, on the DVD releases, there's the deleted scenes put in as special features. I don't want to see it like that. I want to see the film. I don't want to have to keep skipping to special features and think, okay, where did that bit go? Where did that bit go? I want to see it in its entirety.
Yeah, because I know I see the song that he's singing when he first turns up with a flare.
And it really doesn't matter what I say, as long as I say it with a flair. First I rattle off a ready stock of gibberish and poppycock and fix you with my best hypnotic stare.
Yeah, so there was that song with a flare, and there was the one where she first, when they say goodbye to Emilius Brown and he looks like he's going to go, and she starts singing, what's that song called?
Is it Nobody's Problem?
That's the one, Nobody's Problem.
They found that. So Sherman in 2009 said they were the heartbeat of the film, these songs. He still feels pained about it. They found the version of, what's her name, Eglantine.
Yeah.
That was restored, but they have not found the one with the 3 children reading it.
Because they're saying they're nobody's problem now as well.
Yeah, but at the very beginning, and what he said about it, he goes, if you had heard the 3 little war orphans singing it early on in the picture, then you would have really cared about them kids. He said it was a very, very important song. He said, we put our lives into this picture, our blood, sweat and tears, and they just sliced it out. He said it was so denuded of emotion that it was upsetting. Angela Lansbury was passionate about it. She said it's like, and the thing is, because I think they'd all seen the film.
Yeah.
They'd all seen it, and they was like, oh my God, what a wonderful film. And then they've seen the release in the cinemas, and they're going, well, where's that? And where's that gone? Where's that gone?
Yeah.
It ruins the pace of it. As you said, Mary Poppins, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang are roughly about 2.5 hours. So, and we don't look at them and go, oh, well, they can cut that bit out.
And famously, Roddy McDowall, who's in it, who's in the version that you would have watched, he's got like about 2 lines.
Yeah.
And he's in like 2 little scenes. His whole time put together is less than a minute.
Yeah.
And yet he's got 3rd billing on this film. Because where he had this whole separate... He plays Mr. Jelk, and you don't even hear his name in the version that you know. You just think, oh, he's some priest asking about the kids. He's there for like a little bit of comic relief. But his character's actually trying to get hold of her land, and he's trying to sort of like seduce her, Angela Lansbury. Roddy McDowall was still a big actor at the time as well. He'd been in How Green Was My Valley, which famously beat Citizen Kane for Best Film at the Oscars. Lassie Come Home, Planet of the Apes, and obviously later in the 80s he was in Overboard and Fright Night.
See, that's why I knew I remembered him as a butler. I thought it was in something else the other day, and it was Overboard.
Overboard, yeah.
Because I thought Trading Places, didn't I? And I thought no, that's John Gielgud, I think. But then I got him mixed up.
So Disney had bought the rights to this back in 1947. I think the original book, The Magic Bedknob, came out in 1943, and then it had a sequel come out. Bonfires and Broomsticks came out in 1947.
That's right. It's 2 films sliced together. It's 2 books sliced together, isn't it?
In 1961, if you've seen Saving Mr. Banks, you'll know about all the rigmarole of trying to get Mary Poppins made. So in 1961, due to the negotiations breaking down with P.L. Travers, they decided to make Bedknobs and Broomsticks. So the Shermans were working with Disney, starting the project in motion. Then obviously she's then said, okay, you can make Mary Poppins. So they put it back on the back burner. So it was as early as 1961 that they was started to develop it. So it took about 10 years for it to get onto screen.
Because he got the rights for this, way before Mary Poppins was all signed and sealed.
And after Mary Poppins came out, so what year was Mary Poppins?
It says here 1964.
Oh. Well,
I thought it was about 68.
No, I knew it was earlier. And then in 66, the Sherman Brothers resumed work on Bedknobs and Broomsticks, but then Disney, after looking at it, thought it's too similar to Mary Poppins, and they shelved it again. So it weren't a number of years after that for them to greenlight it again. So the book's written by Mary Norton, who's probably best known for The Burrowers.
Did you also know that Disney actually wanted Julie Andrews for the lead role in Bedknobs and Broomsticks, and she declined it? But then by the time she thought about it, and she thought, well, if it wasn't for Mary Poppins, she would. That was the start of her career. Yeah. He gave her the start of her career, and she sort of changed her mind. Yeah. And then by that time, they'd already signed and sealed Angela Lansbury, which I'm glad of, really, because I think she's. I mean, Julie Andrews would have been amazing, but Angela Lansbury's really good in this.
I think it would have then just that little bit too much like Mary Poppins, too close a connection, because people will go, well, I don't get this, because in Mary Poppins she's got all these powers, whereas in this she's like different, and kids would get confused because they think it's the same person. This was the last film of Reginald Owen, who played Major General Sir Brian Teigler. So you know at the beginning where they're singing the old front guard. That's it. So the bloke at the front, who also was in Mary Poppins, he was Admiral Boom. No, the bloke who's up on the top of the house.
I suppose you don't really notice because there's both sort of you know the characters in both films, but because they're only small bits, you don't notice it's the same person.
But yeah, this was the last film that he was in before he died, which is an interesting connection as well, because that Admiral Boom house, originally when the Sherman Brothers were, because how they developed the films, rather than just go from the book exactly, they'd take elements of the book, and Disney would sit in with the Sherman Brothers and they'd come up with loads of different songs, and they'd say that song works, this song works, let's have this. And in Mary Poppins originally there was a whole segment where she takes the kids up onto Admiral Boom's ship. So this is the whole point of him being in, because you always think with Mary Poppins, what's the point of that old man firing cannons? She gets on it and she makes the ship fly around the world. She spins the compass, and one of the places it sends them to is under the sea. Yeah. Where they sing
Beautiful Primary under the Beautiful Primary Sea, which is from this film.
So it was years later when they was working on this, they went, that'd be a good song, the song we didn't use in Mary Poppins. We'll have that. So they fall in the water first before they go onto land. Angela Lansbury, of course, is the main star in this. I wouldn't say this launched her career. She did have like quite an established career before this, but this made her even more so in the mainstream, I think, because then after this she went on to do Murder, She Wrote.
That's what I think. Yeah, she done it for years, didn't she?
She was the pot in Beauty and the Beast.
That's right. That's right.
Now, Roddy McDowall, going back onto him briefly, he was actually in a relationship with Montgomery Clift at one point as well. But in '74, the FBI raided his home and found 160 16mm and more than 1,000 video cassettes. And this is to do with piracy. They thought he's pirating videos. You got to think this is '74, so he was an established actor and everything. But what it turned out is he'd purchased Errol Flynn's home cinema films and was transferring them all to keep them. So, like how we are passionate about films, it was literally just, he knew Montgomery Clift had a huge collection of films. He bought them all and he was slowly transferring them all onto VHS, which he thought, this is way I can preserve them forever. But the FBI, he was looking like he was going to go to prison for it.
Really? See, Montgomery Clift, he was like a heartthrob, wasn't he? Anyway, what I wanted to say as well, the budget of this film was $6.3 million, but it made $17.9 million, which I'm surprised at. I thought it would have made a lot more than that.
But was that domestic or was that international?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably made millions, hundreds of millions by now, I would say. It's got to have, because also on the Rotten Tomatoes, the critics was 67%, audience 74%.
Yeah, I think people look a bit harshly at it sometimes. Going back to the songs briefly, there was another song called Solid Citizen, which...
in this film?
Yeah, in this. Okay. It was called Solid Citizen, which was originally, the Sherman Brothers wrote it, so when they land on the island Naboo, there wasn't that big football match. It was originally... he's trying to get the medallion off him, and to distract him, she sings this song called Solid Citizen, which is like a little joke song about a guy working at a cement factory, and then one day he falls into the tub and it turns into a statue and he becomes a solid citizen. both that and Nobody's Problem are actually both on Spotify as well.
Yeah, because a lot of the songs that was cut from it were made it onto the album, so that's why people were confused, going, well, where's this, where's that? That's what I think opened people's eyes to it, first of all.
Yeah. Briefly back onto the cast again, of course, it's got Bruce Forsyth as the man with the knife. Sam Jaffe was the bookman, who not many people would know, but he he actually got an Academy awarded a nomination for The Asphalt Jungle in 1950.
That's Marilyn Monroe in him, Asphalt Jungle.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, well, he got a Best Supporting Actor nomination for that. The voice.
I don't think I've ever seen it, but I know it's one of hers.
The voice actors, there was Lenny Weinrib, who does the King, the Lion, and the Secretary Bird. He was quite a well-known voice actor. He was the original Scrappy Doo from Scooby-Doo. And he was in like a long list. I'm not going to list them out. The one you probably know is The 9 Lives of Fritz the Cat.
Oh, I don't think I've ever seen that. Because it's cartoon porn.
Yeah. And the Codfish was voiced by Bob Holt, who the thing of his most significant to me is he done the voice of the Incredible Hulk in 1982 in the old cartoon, which him roaring as the Hulk has actually been used like hundreds of times since then. They've spliced it into other films and stuff like that. Yeah,
the other cast was, there was the 3 kids. There was Carrie, which is Cindy O'Callaghan. I think this is probably her only film. She was in like The Bill. She was in the film ID.
Was she?
Yeah.
Who was she in ID?
I don't know, but she was in the film ID. It's only when I looked at her filmography.
Wait,
she's done loads of telly stuff. Is
this the one who was in EastEnders?
Yeah, it's the girl. She played Natalie's mum in EastEnders.
Right, I think she's one of the coppers' wives in ID.
Yeah, but she's got a list of stuff. But then I looked at the boys, which is Paul, which is the oldest boy. He
played Big Mo in EastEnders.
No, it's the big boy.
Oh, big boy, Charlie.
Charlie. Ian Wayhill.
Who's a bit of a wanker, really, isn't he?
Is he?
Out of the 3 kids.
It's just...
She's a witch, she is.
Yeah.
I think we should fucking stab her.
No, he doesn't say
while
that.
She sleeps.
He doesn't say that. But he's not done any other films. I think the only little things he's done has been connected to this film. And the youngest boy, Paul, is called Roy Snart, and he's only ever done stuff that's connected to this as well.
So in Portobello Road, that's 2 prostitutes that come up to him, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Because
probably subtly.
One's who he knows as well.
Who knows?
Emmett Brown, whatever his name is.
Back to the Future.
Emilius Brown. Because they see him, they come up. He goes, yeah, nice to see you again. Okay, bye-bye. And he sort of shuffles them off on their way.
Yeah,
so he's obviously been going, yeah. But it's one of those things you don't notice as a kid. You just think, you don't notice it, but only as an adult you think, oh, obviously they're ladies of the night. And he's like, he looks really embarrassed and goes, go on.
You know what? I never would have thought of that. I really wouldn't.
No, because it's because the first time we see it as innocent kids.
Yeah.
So there's loads of things like that which you don't notice in films, but an adult was sitting there and go, oh yeah, I know what that's about.
Yeah.
You know, it's down Portobello Road, they've got a couple of hookers because they're clearly more attractive than he is. You know, and these young girls wind up next to him.
Friendly young girls.
Well, and he goes, yeah, okay, thank you, off you go. But why would he do that? If there's friendly girls, he'd just start dancing with them.
This film also won an Oscar for Best Visual Effects, which is good. And I noticed that when I watched it again, the effects when all the armour and all that comes to life, it's done really well. If you think for 1971, it looks really good. So I mean, for that age, when they didn't have all the technology they got now, when you watch it now, you can still see how good that looks.
Right, going back to another song that was removed, "A Step in the Right Direction," which was when she gets the broomstick right in the beginning.
That's the one I was talking about earlier. They've not found the visual for it. They've found the song, and they've put screen clips of photographs which they can't put in the film, understandably, because you're going to be taken away from that. So it's, as Angela Lansbury says, she thinks probably someone might have that somewhere. She's hoping it might be in someone's collection somewhere, that one day it'll be recovered.
Right, because that is very interesting, because in that song, she realises that her spells are actually satanic. She's not... The spells that she uses, the Book of Ashtaroth, is black magic, it's dark magic, it's satanic.
Okay.
And the reason behind it, Astaroth is one of the 3 dukes of hell. So you got Satan, Beelzebub and Astaroth. And he's got this big book of spells, which everything that happens with these spells are evil. You can only do the spells if you hate. You have to do it with hate. Because if you notice in the film, the only time the spells work is when she gets angry. If she gets angry and shouts at someone, all of a sudden the spell will start working. And that's why she gives up the magic at the end. And it's released a little bit in this song. It's realised originally that you was going to understand she can only perform the spells if but she's too good a person. She's too nice for it to work. This is why she's a rubbish witch.
So this is one of the reasons why they're so angry with all these cuts, because you're taking away bits of the story. That's why people might go, oh, I don't get it, because you're cutting important chunks away that might not seem that important individually, but in the whole context of the film, it means a lot. It basically you're ruining that story.
Yeah. See, like when she turns them into rabbits, it's when she's angry at them. So the only time she can actually make a spell work is if she's actually angry at someone. Even the spells when she gets them to work, like the cloves come to life, the cloves then start attacking them, don't they?
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden they start, for no reason, the cloves just start kicking people and start punching people and stuff. So if it wasn't in the guise of a kids' film, you could look at it as something like an Insidious film or something like that. You know, like one of these, like The Conjuring or something like that. They'd be like, she's read these spells from this old demon book, and now all these things.
Evil Dead, they all start looking like.
Yeah, and like even
zombies.
the knights at the end going after the Nazis and stuff like that. You know, that was the one time she was able to finally get it all done, but she had to be literally under attack from the Nazis for it to work.
A couple of the other cuts, there was the Portobello Road was cut down, that whole scene. The beautiful Briny Sea, is it Briny? Yeah, beautiful Briny Sea was cut down, and substitutionary locomotion was also cut down. Reduced scenes was Professor Brown at the station, and also what was cut was the disappearance of the magical necklace. I don't know,
but it did disappear.
But I don't know what that means. But I'm just reading out what's said. But okay, that might not be important. But I think in the whole film, it will all add up and it makes sense.
Another reason it struggled at the box office, it was actually released the exact same day as James Bond film Diamonds Are Forever. The reason that was so hyped at the time, because Sean Connery had done 5 James Bond films, he'd left, and they had George Lazenby, who'd done 1, and it wasn't very successful. It's actually a really good Bond film, but anyway. Then it was like, we've got him back, Sean Connery back as Bond again, and everyone was really hyped to see it. It turned out to be a really crap James Bond film. It was his last proper one before Never See Never Again, but because of that, everyone was taking their kids to go see Diamonds Are Forever. I'm sure there was like a couple of other films, like big films, that was out about the same time as well. So I think it was just.
Yeah, but if it's a different genre, it shouldn't have affected it.
You would have thought
that's a kids' film. It's Disney.
James Bond films were targeted at a whole family, so the parents probably would have looked and thought, look, you've seen Mary Poppins, let's go watch James Bond. We love our James Bond films.
I was just really surprised at the box office. I was like, it's a Disney film, and Disney was really successful back then. Cinema was the go-to place. People didn't have films at home in that sort of time. They might have had 1971. They wouldn't have had films really. But also, I noticed as well, a lot of the German subtitles are cut out. There's certain bits at the end, you see the subtitles, but there's lots of conversation where they're talking and you don't understand what they're saying.
I found that really frustrating the other day because I was watching this film on Disney+.
Yeah.
But when I was watching it and it got to the German part, I suddenly thought, I remember the subtitles popping up. There's no subtitles here.
But they come up at the end.
So I actually went on and selected subtitles. And then what happens, it comes up, the subtitles in English. When it comes to the German one, it just says German speaking. And every so often it would have a line of what they are saying, but in English. If I rewound it, it would then disappear, or a different one would appear. It was really sort of a screwy way for them to sort of organise it. But I know what you mean. The very last few words they say, they added it. I thought there was no witches or something like that.
Yeah. You need to know, if it's part of the story, you need to know what they're saying. And the majority of people that are watching this film won't understand what they're saying. No. So you need to have subtitles, otherwise don't have long dialogue between them.
So how does this one, for you, if you had to sort of rank them, this, Mary Poppins and Chitty Bang Bang, how would you rank them?
It's really hard. It is really hard. I like all 3 of them. I think I like all 3 of them equally.
Yeah.
Because they all bring something different. It's like, I might say one, because I've just watched this, I'll go with this one. But then if I watch one of the others,
You might
I'll go,
say
oh, no, it's that one.
Yeah. Obviously, a big connection between them films and many others was the Sherman Brothers, who done the songs for it.
Yeah.
And they were like the go-to people with Disney at the time, writing loads of songs for loads of the Disney films. This was actually the last Disney film they wrote songs for. They done some, I think, because they'd done like all like the Winnie the Pooh.
Was there a reason for that? Was it because this one, because they seemed like you had the right ump about them bits being cut out?
With this, their contract with Disney, they'd been contracted to Disney for like a period of time. Their contract had run out before Bedknobs and Broomsticks had been finished, but they really loved this. They really loved the work they'd done on it. So the producer, who they were friends with still, said, listen, they've greenlit it, I want you guys back just for this film. So he literally brought them back just to finish the songs for Bedknobs and Broomsticks.
And they sounded like they was really proud of the songs that they'd done. And the songs are really good.
Yeah, they still worked on Disney TV programmes, stuff like that, but actual films they didn't do on here. They, of course, then went on to do like songs from other ones. They're known for doing their fancy word songs, don't they? Like
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Yeah, or in this, what is it? It's substitutionary locomotion. And my favourite from Snoopy Come Home, Fundamental Friendability. That was them as well.
Fundamental Friend, is it?
Fundamental friend dependability.
I don't know.
Fundamental friend dependability. That was the Sherman Brothers Snoopy Come Home. So they've had an untold amount of work. But I guess it was just more to do with Disney would obviously then go, right, we're now bringing in this new wave of songwriters. So they'll have different types of songwriters and they'll bring in again new ones.
What's that got to do with my knob?
They made a stage show of it as well. I remember that being up the West End, then making a stage show. I never watched it.
I think I did. I remember it. Yeah, I remember it.
It makes sense how they could do a film like this as a stage show. You could picture it as a stage show. Me personally, I don't.
It's easy to transfer to stage.
I'm never interested in things like that. I know they've done Mary Poppins.
They've done Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Oh, they've done all three of them, hadn't they? Yeah. How much do you know about that David Tomlinson?
Who's in Mary Poppins? That's it, really.
Okay. It's got a bit of a sad thing that happened to him. He was first married to Mary Lindsay Hidding, daughter of L. Seton Lindsay, the vice president of the New York Life Insurance Company. She'd been widowed in 1941 when her husband, Major Armand Guy Hidding, was killed in action, leaving her to care for their two young sons. Well, Tomlinson married Mary in New York in September 1943. But on the 2nd of December 1943, she killed herself and her two sons in a murder-suicide by jumping from a hotel in New York City after learning that she could not take her two sons with her to join Tomlinson in England until World War II had ended.
Oh, that's sad.
So that is really sad. And I read that before I was watching Bedknobs, and I was thinking, I wonder how many elements of this reminds him of what happened to him, because obviously set during World War II and stuff, it would have been a very traumatising time for him, especially knowing that this woman who I assume he loved, he's married her and he finds out she's killed herself along with her two sons because she couldn't join him in England.
That's sad.
In spring 1966, the Sherman Brothers resumed their work on Bedknobs and Broomsticks, but the project was shelved again due to similarities with Mary Poppins. As the Sherman Brothers' contract with the Disney Studios was set to expire in 1968, they were contacted by Bill Walsh, who's the producer, in their office to start work on the film. Then Walsh, DeGrady and the Sherman Brothers reassembled to work on the storyline for several months. Although there was no plan to put the film into production at the time, Walsh promised the Shermans that he would call them back to the studio and finish the project, which he eventually did in November 1969. Throughout 1970 and 71, the Sherman Brothers reworked their musical compositions for the film.
I don't believe we've met.
Oh, allow me to introduce myself. I am Miss Price's teacher, Emilius Brown, from London.
Professor Brown, of course. Oh, how many times I've seen your name on your packages to Miss Price. Oh, extremely masculine handwriting. I should have known. Professor Emilius Brown.
The very same.
I'll confess something. Such was the nature and frequency of your correspondence with Miss Price, I ventured to hope there was something of a personal interest between you.
If there only were. Miss Price is a fine woman.
I most heartily agree. We're very fond of her here.
I'm sure.
In point of fact, how many times I've said to myself, oh, fortunate is the man who can secure Miss Price for a wife.
One could say that, yes.
You yourself are not married.
Alas, no. These are strange and fearful times in which we live, my good woman. Who could ask someone you cherish to share such an uncertain future?
Very well. Don't say I didn't warn you, Professor Brown. One of these days, you mark my word, someone will come riding out of nowhere to seize and carry off Miss Price before your very eyes.
I shouldn't be surprised. Charles?
Good morning. And who was that, may I ask?
Professor Emilius Brown from London. He's come to see Miss Price. A very good friend, I understand.
Okay, well, that was Bedknobs and Broomsticks. Do you know what you're going to pick for the next one?
Yeah, it's my choice next week, and I know I was choosing between three, but I thought, no, I want to go with this one, because I think the other two are more Halloween-y sort of based. We can maybe do them round about near Halloween time.
Can I suggest Watcher in the Woods?
No, yes, because you just seen me write it down here. It's written at the bottom of my page. Okay, yeah, my next film is going to be The Watcher in the Woods.
Which is another Disney film.
Which is another Disney film, but it's the darkest Disney film.
Yeah.
You know, it was they took that. I think they wanted their name taken off of it at one point when it was. Yeah, they didn't. It's not one that they've released. It's actually really sort of scary. It's got some really creepy bits in it. But anyway, yeah, that's our film for next week, and I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. So thanks again, and we will see you soon. Bye bye. Oh, listen, check us out. We're on YouTube, Spotify, most other things. Whatever, wherever you look at your podcast. All right, thanks again, and we'll see you soon. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.